All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I have a great guest today. I've been looking forward to this one, James Gilliland. And James is the founder of ECETI Ranch, correct? And you're actually, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. The only other person I know that's been doing this is Stephen Greer. Uh,
Yeah.
and you're making contact with these UAPs, these extraterrestrials,
Yeah.
other
Right.
dimensional beings at your ranch. You are doing this. You have footage of it. You have pictures of these apparitions. I mean, folks, don't go anywhere. This is going to be an absolutely amazing story. I promise you, this could be one of the best podcasts ever. You've got me so intrigued. I'm so fascinated about your story, James. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right, folks. And with that being said, get your noble goal, baby. Oh, yeah. Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full time researcher, folks. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live that life. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold and silver. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. I got one. You should get one too. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Freedom and peace of mind delivered 1 ounce at a time, folks. You got to love it. All right. Now we get to the good stuff. Um, I don't even know where to begin here. Did you just acquire, I've heard about Skinwalker Ranch. I've heard
Yeah.
about all these things. I see, videos of Stephen Greer going out there in the middle of the desert summoning
Yeah.
extraterrestrials, which I've kind of like, I'm 1 foot in on that and 1 foot out. I don't really know what's going on. I've never been to any of this stuff.
Yeah. Use discernment there.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying, okay. So you say use discernment with Stephen Greer, but why are you any different?
With everyone,
Okay.
basically. Well, basically, we do something totally different. We don't, we don't, uh, we don't have like a 6-page list you have to read to summon the entities. And we also create sacred space beforehand. And we have a saying, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened, and just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent. And so when you're telling people to open wide and let anything come in, you're setting yourself up for some very intense experiment. Whoops.
I got you. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. So I mean, even possession, basically. And so we're,
See,
you
that's
know,
what scares me here is that, how do you know what you're summoning here? I mean, to me, these just look like, from what I'm seeing here in this footage, looks like almost like ships or like UAPs.
yeah. It's what's happening here. Okay, there's a vibration continuum, and it's multidimensional. And so we have physical ships, we have our nuts and bolts and our back engineered ships and Space Force. And then we have energy ships, and there's energy beings on them. And we have light ships with light beings on them with magnetized light bodies, and they live in a holographic universe. And so we're working with the higher spectrum mostly. We do have the other stuff coming on. We do have videos and photographs of ships that are 100% physical, and you can see all the gear on them and the hardware. But we're on the higher end of the spectrum, and that's the end that's most censored. They don't want this information out that there are very spiritually and technologically advanced beings out there that have transcended war and disease and poverty, who could help us turn our planet around in a moment, because the war and disease profiteers don't want that information out. It's we're probably the most highly censored, but we have 40 years of contact, well documented, and so it's like we're like the OGs on the thing, but we're the most censored. It's kind of
So,
interesting.
so James, what brought you into this realm, or what brought you into this state of consciousness? Like, did you purchase this ranch and just started noticing these anomalies, or were you born on this ranch? How did you start coming in contact with these beings or these UAPs?
Well, it started with a near-death experience, and I was 5 years old in the hospital, and I was dying, and a woman kept appearing to me in blue and pulled me out of it. And the doctors were saying, he's going to die. He's probably not going to make it through the night, and it freaked my parents out. But and there's more to that story. I'll go more into that if you want. But and then I had another drowning, another near-death experience where I went through the tunnel everybody talks about, and I ended up in that plane of bliss where you're not physical anymore. You're a light being, but there's a greater light around you, a greater consciousness and energy. And I had a conversation with that, and it was just pure bliss. It was the most blissful thing you can imagine.
As a child?
That was at 25, the second
25. Second one.
and the second near-death experience. And then that just blew the door wide open. And since then, I've been studying with lamas and yogis and elders of all nations. I was told to go and you know, I had all these masters appearing to me and everything. And in the beginning, I didn't want to talk to the other ones. They're all spooks to me. You know, it's just like you know, I was programmed like Jesus is it, period, you know. And so he kept bringing other masters with him. He said, you got to, you know, study Eastern thought. You need to study the Native American thought, you know, teachings. You need to go to each culture. And so I did, and I realized, you know, it's the same thing, different names for different levels and different deities that represent different archetypes, you know, but eventually it all came from the same source. And it's just diverse aspects of God, Creator, Great Spirit, whatever you want to name it. And the divisions are the problems, you know, that when you're enlightened, you realize there's no divisions. You know, God's omnipresent. You're not even separate from God, you know, but and so I came at it from that perspective, and I was welcomed into all the different cultures and religions and everything, and I could see the pitfalls in some of them, you know, that create division and separation, but I could see like the golden threads that unite all of them together.
Can you explain some of these photos that you sent to me that I'm looking at here? These, what is this photo right here that I'm looking at?
Yeah, we had a master teacher here named Khan, and he's a Taoist, and he spends 21 days in a cave, you know, with just water. And so he can see the other dimensions, and he carries his camera around with him and starts taking pictures. And so we got pictures of Mary appearing, Mother Mary, 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗹, that one's 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗶. We've got pictures.
Appearing in the room, and he took a picture of it?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
bet.
especially when we're doing self-mastery classes or ambassador trainings, they actually appear and they get photographs of them. And these are some of the orbs that are at the ranch. We have a place called the Field of Dreams, and the energy is so high there that people just they have spontaneous healings. You just get higher than a kite walking around it, but it's full of light beings and full of masters and just walking around. But they're in another dimension, but they will appear to you.
And the veil is very thin, correct? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just about being open to these other dimensions, right? I mean, is
Well,
that
we've had
really what extraterrestrial contact is? I mean, everyone's waiting on the government to come out and disclose all this, but
yeah.
really, contact is within, correct?
Exactly. We have to raise our frequencies because we are, that's a picture of me going out of body, you know, showing people that you can actually leave your body and experience these other dimensions and planes. But we really stress learning how to heal unseen negative influences and how to shield yourself before doing these things. That's the first thing we teach, you know, to create sacred space or a safe environment. Yeah, this is the UFOs flying over the helicopters. So we have a lot of black helicopter activity here, and they're always messing with this. And they always have an escort. They always have the UFOs right
Wow.
on.
So the UFOs are watching them, not the other way around.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's very protected here, but it's there's so much going on here. It's like, where do you start? Like in the beginning, we were talking, it's a multidimensional, it goes up to the 13th dimension, basically, of what's happening here.
Why is it just this area? I mean, is it just certain places on this earth? I mean, when you I guess channel or meditate
Yeah.
and you interact with these beings, how does that occur? Like, well, what's the process here? Like, how do you communicate?
Well, you know, basically, if you're a little kid, you just walk on the property because they're wide open and they
Right. Yeah.
see Bigfoot walking by and they see everything, you know. And if we start listening to the kids, you know, they're just wide open already if we don't shut them down. But we teach a lot of kind of a blend of East and West, and we teach meditation techniques, how to heal unseen negative influences, how to keep your energy clear, how to heal yourself, all that stuff. We teach all that here, and we have elders from all nations that have come here and done ceremony. And each time the ships come, when they do their ceremony, 𝗬𝗏𝗶𝗹 was just here and he crossed over, unfortunately, but he's still around. He comes
That's
around.
so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
it's
Bigfoot came and gifted him all these stones right on his front door while he was here, so it was pretty interesting.
what
But
is the story with Bigfoot? I mean, he's always about 100 yards away and he's blurry.
yeah,
It's like, but I've heard that he's transdimensional, right? He's able to
yeah.
come in and out of this dimension. Why is that what what appears to be almost like a Neanderthal looking or an ape creature more advanced? How can that ape creature be more advanced than the human being when it looks like he's lower down the evolutionary scale? Do you get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah,
how is that great ape, whatever you want to call
yeah,
him,
yeah.
more advanced than we are to the fact that he can turn invisible, come in and out of dimensions? What's the story on that? Why aren't we able to do that?
Well, a lot of masters can do that. A lot of lamas and yogis can levitate, they can phase in and out, they can bilocate. And that's actually taught, in the East. But they have that ability. They evolved in nature. And so they can blend with nature, they can appear, disappear. I watched a female walk right in front of me 50 feet away and just phase out. And so I've seen about nine. We have them here all the time, and we put peanut butter out on a post, and they come and they take the peanut butter out, scoop it out, put the lid back on, and put it back on. So I ask people, okay, show me an animal that does that. There is no
Maybe
animals.
a raccoon? I
Well,
don't
they can
know.
take the lid off, but they wouldn't put it back
You're
on and put
right.
it back up
You're
on the
right.
post. So they love peanut butter, they love apples, cucumbers, and but it has to be organic. If it's not, they won't touch it.
So it's a common occurrence for you.
Yeah, yeah, it's on. I'll send you a picture of one. It's like a size 36 foot, but it's there's a size 12 shoe in it, and it's three times bigger than that. But we have castings, we have footprints and everything. But the thing about Bigfoot is that I always tell people, your come from. If you go in there with an attitude and a big ego, you're going to have an experience, and it's probably not going to be fun. But if you go there with respect and give offerings and meditate and put out your intentions and send love, you're going to have a wonderful experience. So you're usually going to get uh, it. They say the mind in which you seek is the mind in which you connect. And so if you go in there with a huge ego and armed and guns and trying to cash in on this, you're not going to go anywhere. But if you take a spiritual approach to it, like the Native Americans say, if you go searching for Bigfoot, you'll never find it. But if
Mm.
Bigfoot wants to, it'll find you. So,
Wow.
uh, yeah, that kind of
What
explains it. But they can phase in and out,
can
and
you can you do this anywhere, James, or does it only happen on your ranch?
they do follow me wherever I go. The ships appear, and so it's kind of but it's more prevalent because the ranch has a long history, has a 40-year history of spiritual practices and meditations and ceremony and things like that. I've had elders from all nations come here. And so there's just a long history of anchoring things into the land. And I've kept it very eclectic because I want everybody to come together and share versus push one belief, over another. And that is the problem. I mean, that's where wars start because of all the divisions, going on.
Right. My belief is correct. Yours is not, mine is the true God. No one,
Exactly.
and then that causes division right there, not unity and
Yeah,
war.
yeah. People ask me, they go, I don't believe in God, and I go, which God don't you believe in? They go, what do you mean? I go, well, the Hebrews had two gods. You have the Egyptian gods, you've got the Greek gods, the Norse gods. They all existed, but they're little g gods. They're not the absolute. And when you know our real history, you'll know how that happened because there were some very, very advanced people coming from the stars that colonized here several times that had to start over as primitives, due to you know pole shifts and major cataclysms and great wars, and that's all established in archaeology, but it's kind of like the forbidden archaeology that very few are bringing out.
Yeah, it's what's well hidden from the public, right? They don't want us to
Yeah.
know our true power. They don't want us to know our true history.
No, I mean they, the if you look at if you look even if you go into the Hebrew God in that section, basically the two gods, Jehovah and Yahweh, one was jealous, wrathful God and very genocidal, and the other one was all loving and all forgiving. So
So which
either
one is it?
God's bipolar or there were two gods. But if when you know the real history of Earth, then you can understand the Bible. But it doesn't make sense if you don't know the real history.
Right, and that turns a lot of people off. It's almost like alien overlords or something.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not. It's not. There's the absolute. There is a God. It's absolute. It's multidimensional. It's unlimited. And whenever you have a name or an image, you've limited it. And
So what do you say to like I have a pretty big Christian audience and they're going to say, "Oh, turn this guy off. He's demonic.
oh
He's
yeah.
channeling demonic entities." I have a lot of people that come on and the prophetic people that come on and talk about Jesus Christ and I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. But what do you have to say to my audience that's like, "Oh, this is completely demonic?"
Ask Jesus, ask Jesus who I am and what I'm doing,
Fair
but
enough. Yeah, fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah, I have no problem with Jesus. I totally respect it and respect Jesus for who he is and what he did and his teachings and everything else. But as far as what churches did with his teachings, that's a different story because
They corrupted it.
yeah, it shifted into a control mechanism from an empowering mechanism because he said the temple is within. And he goes, "Ye are all gods, children of the Most High." And they said, "Where is God?" And he said, "Closer than the hair on your head, and heaven is all around you." But they missed all those points that he was teaching, and then they shifted everything to external. So now God is external. Now heaven is external. It's some other place. And he's always said the temple is within. And there's actually a science to that because your soul actually sits next to the heart in a cavity, and your soul's a connection to source or creator, whatever name you want to give it. And so it's through the heart and through the soul that you connect to God, not
Wow,
by
you're telling me that your soul resides within the heart, not the whole body, just a certain place in the heart?
well, the connector is there. The seat of the soul, there's actually a cavity there that if you touch with a metal object, it'll short your whole system out. And doctors know about that. They can't use metal scalpels and things. They have to use something else. But in certain area, if you touch that area, you're toast.
So you know for a fact that energy does not die, the soul does not die, it just moves on. What do you have to say to these people that say, heaven and hell, it's a punishing God, it's a loving God? I get very confused on this as well. Loves you, but will send you to hell if you don't obey
Yeah.
his commandments.
Well, see, if you know the origin of the wrathful God, then you understand because there were some very little g gods that were here, very advanced ones in our past. Some were very benevolent and they're in service to others and they lived according to universal law. And then some fell and some became self-serving and they became tyrants and they're extremely technologically advanced and we would see them as gods. And if you understand that history, then it makes sense because kind of the Old Testament God was this jealous, wrathful, bipolar, genocidal maniac when you read it. And then you read the New Testament. How can God be all loving and all forgiving, who Jesus said he represented? He goes, "I don't judge thee, nor does my Father judge thee. Go and sin no more." What he's saying is that God's beyond judgment. It can't even judge. It's
Mm.
beyond that. And all it says is as you wish. It's like the sun shining on everybody. And sin is just an archery term. It means you miss the mark, try again. It's not like hell is a
So,
garbage pit where they threw, and if you weren't successful and didn't have enough money for a proper burial or a proper crypt, they just threw you on the garbage pit and burned you with the rest of the trash. And so when we learn the real origin of the names, that we start to get a bigger picture.
so when the government comes out and puts out this disclosure that there's these UFOs flying around, UAPs. What are they getting ready to do? Because I feel like they're getting ready to mislead the public.
They're going
I
to
would
try.
I would imagine that the true disclosure is spiritual.
Yeah, the true disclosure is going to come from the heavens, from the sky, basically. And it's going to come through the hearts and minds of those who have risen to the occasion. That's real disclosure. The other disclosure is a 70-year plus fail. They do the same program over and over. Yep. A new shiny new object, a new famous person, and then they have the same whistleblowers, they have new whistleblowers, and then they have the same people underneath that are controlling it. So it's a controlled narrative, and it'll never go anywhere because it'll never get outside that box that they create. And if you're authentic and you're really coming from the heart and you're in service, you're not part of the club. And so you're going to be shoved aside. And if you want an example of that, we've had 40 years of documented contact. We've had NASA out here. We've had triple T PhD Boeing engineers. We've had Skunk Works. We've had Air Force base commanders testify on our Bell show that came out here that saw the ships and said they aren't ours. And so when you have that much evidence and ships in every size, shape, and color, physical, light ships, energy ships, when you have all that evidence, why is this not part of the UFO community? I've been pushed out of it, basically.
I
And
was just going to ask that. Have you been pushed out of the community?
oh, big time. Yeah, I'm not really welcome at. I was at the International UFO Congress, and during the filming, I actually shaped. I kind of turned into a light and back to a physical, and they caught it on film.
Wow.
And I had light beams behind me, and a lot of that's the Tibetan things that I was trained to do. And that was all on the footage. And after my talk, people were crying, and there's the biggest rush to get a copy of the talk that they've ever seen. And then the next day, I'm told I'm not welcome there anymore. So I
Wow.
I went outside of the controlled narrative, and the same thing, contact in the desert. What you realize is, I mean, these are changing. Hopefully, they're shifting into the right direction, but there is kind of satanic Luciferian money, the international banksters. That big money is coming through certain people, and that's financing a lot of these conferences and things like that. And so we're the last people they want to have there. It's because it's the same thing in politics, the same thing
Of
everywhere,
course.
basically.
What are we looking at right here? This almost looks like a picture of Jesus to me.
That's Kuan Yin, and
Oh,
she
I was
has
way
her
off.
vessel.
I was
Yeah,
way off.
well, same.
Kuan Yin. I've never even heard of Kuan Yin.
She's like the goddess, kind of Asian goddess, but and she rides a dragon, and she has a elixir in her hand that she pours. It's like liquid light, and she initiates people. And that was taken by the Taoist monk that was here. When he took the picture of Mary, he had no reference points, and he said, he goes, "Who is this? Who is this?" And I go, "That's Mother Mary," and so there's no preconceived ideas in all this, and that's the energy starting to coalesce before she took form.
Wow. And this is something you see, what, everyday occurrence at the ranch, or just do you have to go out and meditate for this to come, or do they just show up when they please?
Used to, I used to meditate a lot. Now it's just there. The connection's just on.
So you're just a wide, you yourself are almost like a portal to these. Yeah.
Yeah, I can go in and read people's everything, their childhood trauma, past life, clear that, go into who their main teachers and guides are and everything. You have a pretty powerful guide.
Do I?
I'll tell you later. I don't know if I want to put it on the air. You probably know who it is, but
Okay. I think I do. Wow. But could you say on the air what you read for me? I'm not scared. You
yeah,
can.
I didn't want to trespass, but it's
I trust
Michael.
that.
It's Archangel Michael.
Wow. Okay.
And you've got a lot of that lineage, the Mary Jesus lineage behind that. But because of the work you're doing, you've got some big hitters. And the Andromedans are actually known as archangels. The people thinking there's a whole race of archangels out there. They're Andromedans, and they're about 8 to 10 feet tall. They're mythologically known as archangels, but they have magnetized light bodies, and they don't have to fly. They just appear wherever they need to appear. but they have these energy bands. They go up and around their back. And when they come into this dimension, they feather back and look like wings, but they don't really have wings that we know of. It's more their energy fields that we're looking at.
And would you say I'm protected during this
Yeah.
time?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you won't have challenges though.
Oh, no, I'm already
You
into
have protections, but you have to initiate it and keep working with it. But you've got a lot of protection.
it. So, wow, that was kind of unexpected. That's pretty cool.
Well, you're probably feeling it right now.
I would imagine they've been working overtime with me.
Yeah, they have. They
I would
have.
imagine like this. We've had enough of this guy, man. So, wow, man, I had how has this affected you personally in your personal life? Does it do you feel more, I don't know, has it brought more challenges into your life? Has it brought you more peace? Both? I mean, how do you feel with everything that you're experiencing?
God, that's like a book, you know.
Yeah.
I always tell people the higher your frequencies are, the closer you are to Creator, God, or Great Spirit, the more you become a mirror and an amplifier. And you mirror back to people the things they haven't dealt with yet, and you amplify it, and it's part of a healing. But most people project, and they project and blame versus going, well, I'm having this feeling, this is my feeling. And rather than own it, that you might be in, past life might be triggered, a childhood trauma might be triggered, they usually project and blame. And so it's really rough to be around. I spend a lot of time in nature and a lot of time just gardening and farming and building here on the ranch and taking care of the ranches and picking coffee and things like that. We have another farm in Hawaii. It's a coffee ranch.
Are a lot of these cryptids that people catch on these trail cams that I've seen? I watch a lot of this, by the way. I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, I do
Sometimes,
too.
like, yeah, I just can't believe what I'm looking at. Like, there's these Bigfoot, obviously all over the place. Those are like common occurrence on these trail cams now. But also, there's these looks like evil entities, and obviously they would have to be right. If there's good, there's got to be. I mean, both
Yeah, yeah,
sides.
definitely. They're real.
But
I mean, they do exist.
so, what are skinwalkers?
It's kind of a Native American tradition, and it's usually a human that was very dark and doing a lot of dark ceremony and that died and is still uh, coming around and messing with people and things like that. And it's kind of what most people would call like a demonic energy, or definitely not positive. And you
Are
want
they
like
trying to get to the light? Are they trying to break out of that?
no, they're trying to create as much havoc as possible. They're really trying to take you down to their level, so but yeah, they're on the other team, you might say. They're on the other side.
What would you say about, gosh, it's just so fascinating to me. I've seen these missing 411
Yeah.
people that are missing I've heard hundreds and thousands of people go missing in the national parks. Do we know what's doing that? I mean, are aliens abducting them? Are Bigfoot taking them down into caverns? I mean, what's going on here? I have so many questions.
Usually, I mean, there are some Bigfoot that kind of they didn't really go bad. They just got pissed off at how much, people are going out there and shooting at them, coming into their territory, really arrogant, disrespectful, and there are some that are done had got pissed off, like if somebody shot at one, they might come down to a camp and just wreak havoc on everybody, things like that happens now and then, but it's usually instigated. I'm not saying they're all peaceful, but I notice when you're blasting them with love and light or joy or whatever, they respond.
So they feel they're like people. They have their own personalities.
Yeah, but they're way more sensitive than we are. If you're coming into the forest, they already know you're there. They know who you are, and they know your character. They know your frequency before you even enter the forest. So that's why you're not going to see them.
Are they in every forest or just certain parts of the regions? Like
They're all over. They're all over.
they go wherever they want because they're invisible.
Yeah, well, up here, this is one of the most highly documented Bigfoot area. Skamania County and Mount Adams. There's more Bigfoot sightings and more documentation and actually they have laws here. If you shoot Bigfoot, you go to jail, like for murder. You know,
I
so
mean, hasn't anyone ever shot at, I mean, I know people have shot at it, but I've never heard of anyone killing Bigfoot.
there's some stories, but I can't verify them. I've heard stories where somebody supposedly people have shot them, but if you kill a Bigfoot, they're gonna follow you. They're even though you might have killed their physical body, you're gonna have some serious consequences
I
on
would
that.
imagine. So what can we, let's talk about alien abductions for a moment. And when people think about UFOs, they think about a spaceship landing, mechanical. People get out, they traveled light years to get here. They have the technology to do so.
Hmm.
Would you say that's not the case? And would you say that they don't travel that way? It's more so portals, and it's what, light vehicles?
You see, that's the big problem with ufology and everything. It's the answer is all the above.
Okay. Yeah, I
So,
figured.
so we do have negative ETs. We've got in that world, you have serpent beings, you've got the royal reptilians, Dracos, you've got negative grays. There's a few, and they call that the Orion Alliance. But on the counter side of that, you have the Orion Council of Light that's actually gone up against these guys and have been victorious, and now they're here. They're here on Earth to help us clean this stuff out. But that's the negative side of it. And you have fallen Anunnaki in that mix too as well. But and that's that kind of the banksters, the satanic Luciferian banksters are aligned with that kind of energy. And then you have on the positive level, you have ascended masters. You've got 5D Palladians. You've got 6D the Orion Council of Light. You've got feline beings. There's three categories of feline beings, and they're all throughout history. You've got lion beings that are like 17 feet tall that are protectors of the gods. You have the there's kind of like an upright panther being, and you have one that's a humanoid cat-like being. That they're all either from Lyra or Sirius. They come from those systems, and they have names for them like 𝗬𝗏𝗃 and the 𝗏𝗃𝗃 and the 𝗬𝗏𝗃. And they're all throughout history. Like Sekhmet was one of them. She was a protector of the ancient Lyrians, who would be known as the Anunnaki or the Egyptian gods. They're very tall. She's 14 feet tall, Sekhmet is.
Wow. So where are we at right now, James, in the evolution of our planet as a species? Where are we headed? I mean, it seems like it's just so much chaos. I tend to believe Trump is one of the good guys. I feel like he's doing good things on this planet. But where are we as a species? What messages are you getting that we're headed in the wrong direction, right direction? Are we going to split like two timelines, and some people go into the black, dark dimension, and we go into, and others will go into the light? Is there going to be a split? Is there going to be a solar flare, a solar flash that decides that? I mean, there's so much out there. I mean, you can tell my head's full of this shit.
Yeah, I can explain. I'll try to explain it. It's really complicated, but I'll try to simplify it. But let's say on the top, I talked about the negative aspect of things that's going on here, and you've got the rituals and the demonic stuff and the child trafficking and sex trafficking, all that stuff. That's all being exposed right now. And it's not frequency specific to where the Earth is going. So the Earth itself is ascending, and the higher dimensional beings, all the way to Creator, God, Great Spirit, whatever name you want to give it, all the way up to there, is pushing in on the Earth right now. It's pressing in. And the sun is part of that. The sun is going ballistic, and it's just slamming us with X-class flares and solar storms and you name it. And our Schumann resonance off the scales, that's where a lot of the severe weather is coming from, an increase in earthquake and volcanic activity. But there's also there's also weather warfare, and the dark hearts using that as well. So that's one of those all above questions. But you can't. I just say resistance is futile. You can't stop the light from coming in. You can't stop the higher consciousness and energy, which comes with it, universal law, which is being anchored into the earth right now. And this old draconian law, this old system is collapsing, it's imploding, and it's not frequency specific to where we're going. And that's why we all have to raise our frequencies. And the chaos is part of the great reveal. Everything is being uncovered, everything is being revealed. And that the chaos is part of the healing. It's like everything coming up for people to see. Nothing hidden anymore.
I I uh I feel like even in my own life, like what I'm experiencing, my evolutionary trajectory, um, I can't deny this stuff, man. It's there.
Oh,
I
yeah,
just you just can't. And I feel like God is so much more complex than any of us can ever imagine, but it's also very simple if you just understand we're all one, right? We're all
yeah,
one
yeah.
energy, just experiencing this life subjectively, correct?
Yeah, two people they go, what is God? And I go, well, words can't explain it, but it's the one consciousness that encompasses all consciousness on all planes and dimensions throughout the multiverse. It's the unified field. And in its most unlimited expression, it's just pure unconditional love and joy and bliss. It's there's no words for it. And that's what I experienced in my near-death experience. But the but that energy, loves the ultimate power in the universe. And believe it or not, if you look at power versus force or these things, you know what the most powerful energy is being authentic.
Oh wow. I feel
And
like
love is under that.
wow.
So when you're being authentic, you're aligned with your own unique purpose for being here and your soul's connected to God or creator.
So I often think like what I'm doing right now, I'm being authentic in because even boxing, I wasn't authentic because I didn't really want to box. It was something I was kind of feeling made to do because I was so good at it.
Exactly.
I was so good at it. I was knocking everybody out, but I still was like, I don't really like it wasn't really I was kind of looking for a way out, man.
Yeah.
And uh and I think that my soul brought that upon me. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, what you're saying was before you said, that was the end of my career. And I would say, no, that was the beginning, because our old careers are going in the toilet right now. And we have to align ourselves with universal law and be of service and raise our frequencies if we're going to remain here because we can't do the old program anymore. It's phasing out. And a lot of people, are losing their jobs. They go, I don't feel right about doing this. I don't want to be here anymore. And they're seeing how dark things really are. And that's part of the process. And then people are just walking away. They're saying, but they're in limbo because they don't know where to go. The world doesn't support them yet in this new conscious and energy, these new revelations that are happening to them. So we're just in transition, but there is a no, like Trump said, there's a golden age coming. He's aware of a lot more than people
I I
think
kind of
he
suspect
believes.
that, yeah, and I've heard that as well. I've heard that he's very aware of what's going on right now. Is there a galactic federation? Is there something like that out there that kind of monitors the stars, the planets, the universe? Because when you say something like that, that's when people just go, okay, I can't take this anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and check out right here. Is there something like that? I mean, is there like because when I say Galactic Federation, automatically my mind goes to Star Wars or something crazy like that. Is there
Yeah.
something like that out there?
Yeah, Star Wars was a documentary, basically. And there's a force. There's a force out there, and there's a light force and a dark force, and we get to choose which one we serve. The dark force is unsustainable. It has consequences because you're going against universal law. So you're going to get, you're going to tip your apple cart there on that one. But all ill-gotten gain is you're going to lose it if it was gotten ill-gotten because and so it's good to shift our energies and our assets towards the awakening and healing process. And that's called dharma. You get rid of the old karma and you get a lot of help if you're going in the right direction. And really forgiveness is automatic because God can't judge. It doesn't have an ego. So, and that's what Jesus was trying to explain to us, but most people didn't get it. But we have to forgive ourselves and the guilt and the memories of the actions in the past create the reaction to that. And we keep our books, they're written in our soul. And so we have to really clean ourselves up and then allow the light to express through us clearly without all the wrong conclusions from past experience and wounds and traumas and things like that.
Do you allow people to come onto your ranch and experience this contact? Do you teach them how to do this?
Yeah, we've t taught hundreds of thousands of I for 40 years we've been doing this. So
Wow.
we have 40 years of people that have come here, seen the ships, have seen the beings that have had spontaneous healings, crazy things happening here. And and for some reason that's a major threat, even to the spiritual and UFO community because if you can't incorporate UFOs into the religions of the spiritual community and and spiritual community, you can't bring it into the UFO world. And it's all divided, but it's all the same. It's just different aspects of the same, and people don't realize that. But
Do you think that, when you watch programs like Ancient Aliens and things like that, is that a conditioning process for the big, I always look at it as a Luciferian type of agenda where they're going to they condition the public to accept this narrative that they're going to push onto society, which is going to be, they're here, they're over the White House, here we are, I
yeah,
mean, is this what they're getting geared up for? Is this what they're going to bring humanity to?
well, I don't want to get myself into trouble. I've already been threatened and they tried to sue me and everything else for telling the truth about that one. But I think you got the picture correct. But
Okay.
you follow the money. Who's financing these things and what's their goal? And Corey Good and Wilcox left. They left. I won't mention their name, but because they did an episode, and I think it was on Ancient Aliens, where they tried to establish Lucifer as the one true God using
Wow.
using a lot of their research. And so there's a letter. David Wilcox wrote a letter to them and a resignation letter, and that's common knowledge. That's a lot of people know that out there, and because he made it public, and so
I
you know,
talk to David Wilcox quite often. He's a friend of mine.
yeah.
He seems like he's kind of just like an introvert now. Like I don't think he really trusts anybody.
He needs to come see us.
Okay.
I've gone to lectures and conferences in the past, and hung out with David and Corey, and Corey's a good friend of mine too. And we have tools. We can just clear everything. It's
Wow.
the big eraser. We can bring in the big eraser and just never happened. And I don't know why people don't partake of them. It's like you don't have to make it this hard.
Right.
It because these things aren't who you are. These wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions from past experience, they really aren't who you are. That's something that happened to you. But underneath that is this loving, joyous, powerful, manifesting God or goddess. That's your core. And when you connect people into their core, and we do it, we practice Qigong here and a lot of other teachings that actually initiate people to connect with their own core energies, whatever you want to call them. Everybody has a different name for it.
I think about like things that happened to me along my life, like as a child, teenager, and it's like I think of it as like a system getting hacked, getting
Yeah,
game, and
exactly.
and that's how I see it. It's like that's not who I really am. It's been hacked and fractured or fractaled, right?
Yeah, and when you
Fractured.
incarnate, I mean, they know who you are, and they're going to make things really rough from you and do everything they can, not just physically, but on other levels too, to shut you down, to stop you from stepping into your power and remembering who you really are. And that people realize there's that saying, this war we're having, it's not a war of flesh and bones. It's a spiritual war that's going on. But once you awaken somebody and they're aware of what's going on, they can't be manipulated anymore, which is a big threat, to the controllers, basically.
James, I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anywhere people can find you? I know you have your own YouTube channel as well, correct? Where you put a
Yeah.
lot of this video footage up.
Yeah, what we do is we have As You Wish Talk Radio on the BBS network, and we have Rumble, and we have X, and we have Telegram, and we don't post a lot on YouTube because we get censored a lot,
Yeah, I would
and stuff
imagine.
on YouTube, but we don't post it. We just leave the videos up there of all the ships coming here and everything else. But it's through eceti.org is the best way to connect with us. And I want to tell people just, I think the mantra now we need to do is like this too shall pass. Because I mean,
Yeah.
we're just getting hammered right now and the old world's collapsing. And don't we have to practice loving detachment, let it collapse. and really work on healing ourselves and clearing our own consciousness and energy and making our own personal connection with Creator's Great Spirit, whatever name you want to give it. And don't settle for the little g gods. Don't
Yeah,
settle.
don't settle for the little G God. So ECETI.org is ECTI.org.
ECETI.
ECETI,
Yeah,
ECETI.org. So ECETI.org, folks. I'll put it there at the ECETI. So it's ECETI. ECETI.org at the bottom there. Click on it and stay with me just for a sec, will you, Jay?
sure. Yeah, no worries.
Thank you so much.